Well, good morning, good morning, good morning. On this third day of September, the day after Labor Day, we're back in the building, live in studio. Yours truly, Joe Dupree from 100 BLK, the Black Station. You see him over there. It's my brother from another mother. You know him from the Open Lines, On Lines, and Keeping It Real with Reverend Al Sharpton, his brother Fatim. Our sister Jax is on vacation out there with some sun and sand and ocean breeze, and she'll be back soon. Today, of course, is Tell the Truth Tuesday. We got Doc Griggs coming on at the top of the hour. It's 7 minutes past the hour right now. Family, this was a rough Labor Day weekend. No other way for me to put it. Um, I got a phone call from my brother this morning. I've had multiple phone calls this weekend. Of course, death and tragedy has hit the area I live in a way like no other as of late. Uh, I don't know what's going on in Lafayette and Lafayette Parish. Uh, However, I put my trust in the hands of the Almighty, of the Most High, and I know He knows. I saw some comments out there that really disturbed me before I even go to Brother Fatim. Saw some comments out there about all we doing is blowing a bunch of hot air, and that's why all this is happening, and all this gun violence and all this killing. And all I can say is you can do everything that you know to do as a community advocate, as a leader, as a parent, as a grandparent, as an aunt or uncle, as a brother or sister. This is far beyond me with this senseless gun violence that is going on not only in Lafayette but throughout the nation. Uh, I don't have the answer. I don't. I try to, as I say every morning on my humble Facebook post, I try to help who I can help, fix what I can fix, and everything else I let go and I let God. Um, just been a crazy weekend. And I know after talking to Brother Fatim, I'll let him say good morning and good morning, Brother Fatim. That's all I can
What's
say,
up?
man. Good
Good
morning.
morning,
Good morning,
brother.
brother.
Let me just say this first. Um, since he made this public, to Eddie Bonnet's family, during their time of bereavement, him and his
Amen.
wife. I just want to offer my condolences and
Same
my
here.
prayers to the
Same
to the
here.
family. That's number one. As I called Joe this morning, I'm not going to go into the details because I got to respect the privacy, but it's not tragedy, but it hits home when you have a family member, someone close to you that is violated. And anybody that knows me, that I'm a protector, not just of mine, but people. I'm a protector for people. I've had people that looked out for me from the streets back in when people threatened me to take my radio, to threaten to shoot me, and I've had people to come to my aid. And I believe in, you have to stand up for your community. It depends on where you believe. I'm not a violent person, but I will protect mine. And I just an incident hit home. So right now, you know, when the situation happened Sunday night, I had to deal with it because I'm so far away. Because the incident happened in New York, and it's someone very, 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 very close to me. I'll just say it's my daughter, my oldest daughter, and it's definitely a legal matter right now. I just got off the phone with one of my folks in the mayor's office. Oh, this you I put something on Facebook. I meant what I said. Um, you gonna know what you done did. You done violated, and that's the problem, Joe. That we have too much of this senseless situation going on. When you out there and you don't bother no one, um, you try to do the right thing, and people come in that space. you gotta let them know, man, you can't do that. And that's the best way I can say, because I don't want to put out negative energy. And since this is a legal matter, I don't want to taint anything
Right.
right now.
Right.
But I'm surrounding the streets around my loved ones.
Right.
You know, doing it the right way. But that's it. All I can just say is that's it. Let me personally thank KC, who's in the chat, you know, because reached out. I text her and she reached out to me yesterday morning, and she was on the phone doing some of my calls with some of my people. And I appreciate that, because at the end of the day, I really didn't feel anger to this morning. I really didn't. And that's where you got to be, you know, that's where you can act irrational, and you got to
Right.
be very careful of how you act. But let me just say this, and it's so good that I had, when we talked about sexual abuse, this is not a sexual abuse case. I'm just saying, when we talked about sexual abuse and this, that, and other a couple of weeks ago, and then I had a further conversation, I learned a lot, and I learned a lot. And when you learn a lot, that when people put their hands on you or whatever, and it becomes violence, especially when, you know, because I've always said you have a right to protect yourself. Nobody's supposed to be hitting you. Nobody. And I always told my daughters, don't put your hand on someone, because you put your hand on someone, they have a right to protect themselves. And, you know, but when they don't, when a man becomes an aggressor on a woman,
Not good.
say it again. When a
Not
man
good.
becomes a, it
Not good.
becomes yeah,
Abusive.
and
Not good.
yeah,
Not good.
yeah.
Not
And
good.
see, the problem is you ain't sorry now. I mean, I'm not sitting there, see, because you can snap, you can hurt somebody, you can kill somebody, can't bring their life back, you can hurt them. And then you want to apologize. There's no apology now. There is no conversation. There's no conversation now. So, like I said, I hate when it has to hit home, but this is what we realize, that we're dealing with life. That's why I try to say to people why I've gotten involved in what I do, because I never wanted to wait for it to hit home for me to say, "Oh, now I'm sensitive to other people's pain because I feel pain." No, I dealt with, when I didn't feel pain, I helped people that had pain,
Right.
that felt pain, because you know it can always circle back. It can always circle back. You know what I'm saying? I'm not trying to make a show downer, but my mood is just not the greatest mood today. And you know, and like I say, I'm saying now, I'm here, I'm cool. Me and Eddie goes at it. I'm telling now, I am not doing that right now.
No, no, no.
To my
On
brother,
on
my
on both
brother,
listen, today is not the day that we have this political malarkey, this craziness going on where people try to press people's funny buttons. At the end of the day, the world is going to keep turning with or without you. And understand this: if today you left, this election is still going to happen on November the 5th, if you're here or if you're not here. So today, let's uplift one another. It's been a rough weekend. We've had folks stepping in front of 18 wheelers here in Lafayette. Um, we've had multiple shootings here in Lafayette. And we've got people out there that pose the question as if the folks that are in leadership and the folks that are got the pulse of community are the folks that are somewhat responsible for all of this. I'm not putting no responsibility on nobody except the people who are doing the heinous crimes. And understand the following: you can put every program in place, but the question is the people who really need the programming getting that program? See, when you put all this stuff in place and you get these federally funded dollars, and a lot of it is really not y'all wanting to put the programs in place to help the community, you want to get that money for yourself. So let's call a spade while folk out there trying to say things. The truth about the matter is I've been out in them streets. I've walked them streets at 2, 3 in the morning. And if you haven't walked them streets at 2, 3 in the morning, and sit down and talk to the drug dealers, sit down and talk to the drug users, sit down and talk to the prostitutes. I ain't got a lot to say to you because it's easy for you to have Twitter fingers and Facebook fingers and Instagram fingers and post all kind of criticism when you ain't been out in them streets. Period. And then on the other side of it, because I've been where Brother Fatim is at, it is not good for anybody, and I mean anybody, especially a man. Understand this. I understand that if a woman puts her hands on you, you got the right, yeah. And these days and times, you got to be careful. But let's just be real about it. You are the stronger individual in most cases. Not all, but most. And so don't lose it because it's so easy for you to forget your strength. And all of a sudden, somebody's got to be slow singing and flower bringing. And I'm tired of going to funerals. I'm tired of senseless violence, period.
Yeah, let me finish this,
Joe. Not only gun violence. I'm just tired of senseless violence, period.
Let me just say this, Joe. Let me just, because I wasn't finished. I want to thank Matt when I was saying about with KC about that, but I also want to thank folks that I talk to right now. I'm getting Texas. I got people on this. I want to thank because hospital was involved. I happen to know somebody that I didn't know if they still worked at the hospital. And I called them and they was like on their way to the hospital for work. And they was able to see, deal with what needs to be dealt with. And that was very, 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 very helpful. And I'm just saying the work that you do out here, like we laugh about it when I break away from the camera and go and call people. But it's not only the people I know, it's the people who know me. And see, that's the difference. You can know a lot of people. We can take pictures. We can take pictures with a lot of people. But if those people don't know you, then when you need somebody, they ain't there. That's why I try not to drop names, this, that, and the other. And I was talking to my family last night. I don't ask nobody for too much of anything.
This is true.
When I got a call in that favor, I'm not gonna sit there and say I expect it. But when I call in that favor, it's looked upon that, Brother Fatim, don't call in that favor. This is serious. Because when I made this call this morning, he was like, I hear it in your voice. I know this is serious. I sent him the pictures. He was like, why I didn't get a call? I didn't give you a call for a reason. I didn't give you a call for a reason. So I'll just leave it there. I'll let it deals with. I got to speak with more people. But by the end of the day, this person will know that you shook the wrong tree. You shook the wrong tree.
Of course.
You understand what I'm saying?
Brother Fatim,
also, let me just say this, Joe.
I got to give you some mad love. Brother Eddie is on Instagram. So I keep on flipping screens right now because I'm trying to look at all our live feeds. But Brother Eddie said, much love, much respect to you, my brother.
I appreciate that, and he deals with, he got to deal with a situation. So you surround your family, my brother, and do what you got to do. My heart, my prayers are with you. And also my heart and prayers goes out because yesterday was supposed to be a festive day in New York, in Brooklyn yesterday. And I come to find out yesterday afternoon around 2:35, this is after Reverend Sharpton, he was there at the parade, West Indian Day parade in Brooklyn. Come to find out there was when they use the word mass shooting, more than 5 people were shot there. And again, what you said in Lafayette, New York, and this, again, we can't seem to get it together. And this is why I've always said to people, and I'll just say this one more time, I'll help you out of the quicksand, but I'm not going to allow you to push me into the quicksand. I don't have a problem with working with folks that have made mistakes and want to do better. Because, Sister Jax does that, and you, Joe, and other people. But I'm putting more of my attention on people that want to do the right thing. Do the right thing. If you made a mistake, we all can make mistakes. We all can make mistakes.
True that.
Sorry, we can get better. But I'm tired where we ignore the young folks, all folks that are trying to do the good things, and we don't give them the helping hand that they need sometime, and they be struggling. So those that are out there doing good, we need to put more attention, and those that are more walking in a more righteous way, and trying to do the right thing. I don't care about your religion, your faith, this, that, and the other, because it doesn't matter. I keep telling y'all that it doesn't matter. It's about humanity. Stop putting titles on yourself and stop putting titles on people, and start dealing with people straight up and saying they're not Christian, they're not my brother or sister, they're not Muslim, or they're not Hebrew. I don't want to hear that. Deal with people straight up and deal with them the way that because they're human beings just like you are.
Right.
Putting titles on people.
There are good people
That's all
and
I gotta
bad
say
people
right now.
You're right. There's good people and bad people, and good people do bad things, and bad people occasionally do good things. We all are just human, and I'm so tired. I got to just get this out, because I was reading a post from one of my friends that is a judge, and he listed a plethora of names of folks, and I know all these folks in one shape, form, or fashion. And I know they're out there doing all they can when they can for the greater good of our community. And we've always got these folks who always want to stir the pot. And like I said, forget all that. This isn't okay for folks to talk about, oh, this is happening in democratic cities. Lafayette, Louisiana is not a democratic city. Our mayor is a registered Republican. Our mayor ran as a registered Republican. Our council, out of the 10 members on the council, if I'm correct, only 3 of them are Democratic. The rest of them are Republican. So that means our council is a majority Republican council. Most of the sheriffs and the police chiefs that are elected to office around here, they're not Democrat, they're Republican. So why is the crime doing what it's doing here? Stop trying to make this a political thing, because just like Fatim said, when you put them labels on folks, then you got to take them labels when bad things are happening, not just when good things are happening. So the question is, what's all this killing going on around here? Why everybody shooting up? Poor man. Eddie Barnett is my brother. I'm wearing right now one of my Mason sweaters. That's my brother. That's my frat brother. That's a good brother to me. Man, to know that his sister's brother, who was a good man, minding his own business, doing his craft of cutting hair. So many good people getting this. He has groomed so many good brothers and brothers around here. I don't know about the sisters. He probably can do women's hair too, but I know he's done cut a lot of hair for a lot of brothers. Went out there and did one of the original people who started cutting hair for these kids, and giving back free haircuts for kids going back to school. And to have somebody to run up in the shop and kill you because they trying to kill somebody else, then here's what gets me. I get so sick and tired of, after all this happens, always there's a few, not all, but there's a few of you out there who always want to go, y'all ain't doing nothing. Y'all call yourself leaders. Y'all ain't doing nothing. What the hell you doing before the shooting started? Talking about everything. What y'all do after. Man, I'm so tired of y'all being so damn reactive. When are you going to be proactive? When are you going to get out there before the shooting starts? I can truly say, and anybody who wants to test it can go back and talk to Josh Edmonds. They can talk to Chris Unity Bernard. They can talk to a plethora of folks. When the killing got crazy, we got out in the streets, and I wasn't in law enforcement then. I was just a radio personality, weighing about a buck 80, and was out in them streets. Sometimes we started walking them streets at 9 o'clock and didn't get home till 1, 2 in the morning. We even had law enforcement telling us, man, y'all doing some dangerous stuff out there. We really don't want y'all out there like that. We wasn't out there with no police escort. We were out there talking to the drug dealers, the gangsters, the hoodlums, the folks who rob, steal, the prostitutes. We were talking to everybody. And we were saying, Lord, and listen, I'm going to tell you something. The Most High told me to do this. I prayed about it. You can call Josh right now. I said, Josh, I believe the Lord said we need to be out in them streets for 30 days and all this killing to stop. And for 30 days, there wasn't a soul that got killed due to senseless gun violence in this parish. So I ain't saying, look, it ain't on me and Josh, and it ain't on Chris Bernard. I give all the praise and the honor to God. So maybe some of y'all, instead of going on here talking about y'all ain't doing nothing, maybe you need to get on your knees and pray every morning, like I prayed this morning. Because soon as Brother Fatim called me, my better half walked in the room and said, what in the hell's going on? Let us pray. And we prayed for my brother.
You better pray
for
for
his
me,
situation.
I'm telling you.
We prayed. And guess what? We let it go and we let God. Now, I'm there for Brother Fatim. If Brother Fatim right now said, Joe, you need to be on your way to New York or South Carolina. Guess what? I'm going to put my coins together and I'm going to meet my brother wherever he tell me to meet him at.
I appreciate
this got to stop, y'all. Yeah. This got to stop. Brother Fatim, the mic's yours.
Yeah, so let me start to change gears here. And I don't have a problem, we deal with the news. I mean, I'm thankful, everything, is working out, daughter's good. She's okay. She ain't good, but she's okay. So, she's working today. So that'll leave that there. So let me just start. Let's deal with some news. So let me go here. And even though it's a little on the sad, so it's with heavy hearts that we begin again this, show today, because we was off yesterday. We lost a true legend in the music world and a cherished alumni member of my New York sister station, Hot 97, Fat Man Scoop. And people know that this hit. I got the word Friday night, and the world woke up Saturday saying that he had a medical incident. Fat Man Scoop was born Isaac Freeman III. His voice was Fat Man Scoop was the voice that made us dance, a giant in hip hop who took the world by storm. With chart toppers like Be Faithful in the early 2000s, his distinctive gravelly voice and infectious energy were felt on hits with Missy Elliott, Ciara, Beyonce, and many, many more. But beyond the music, Fat Man Scoop was a beacon of light, a soul full of generosity and warmth. Sadly, he passed away after collapsing on stage doing a performance in Connecticut. He was just 53. He passed away basically when he hit that floor. He was pretty much gone Friday night. His family described him as the laughter in the lives, a source of unwavering strength and courage. His impact on the music industry is undeniable, and his legacy will continue to inspire us all. As we remember Fat Man Scoop, let's hold on to the joy he brought into our lives and the countless lives he's touched. Our thoughts and prayers go out to his family and friends during this difficult time. Rest in power, my brother, Fat Man Scoop. Your voice and spirit will never be forgotten. Let me just say, I read that more like a news story. I knew Fat Man Scoop. We worked together.
Right.
So this brother, in fact, like I said, he had such a big personality. And just so I was so caught up, I didn't thin out this info to you, but I had Fat Man Scoop talking about the lineup on Hot 97 on New York. And you got to realize this Hot 97 is the first hip hop station basically in the country. Right. Hip hop, right. And the lineup that they had Ed Lover and Dr. Dre in the morning. They had a brother who's now with BLS, Bugsy. Bugsy's a legend in New York City, followed by Wendy Williams, followed by Angie Martinez, followed by Funk Master Flex, and then bringing it up overnight was Fat Man Scoop. One hell of a lineup in the hip hop world. He was saying there was no lineup to match that. There's some lineups in the R&B world that can match that lineup, but for what they did in hip hop, and they were my sister station when I was with that 98.7 Kiss FM. And then when we went to BLS, they still remain our sister station. BLS was at another company, but due to mergers and companies being purchased and this, that, and other, BLS and Hot 97 is part of MediaCo Holdings Incorporated right now. So we are a conglomerate together. But this brother, you know, you might have known as a party guy. Those that have been touched by his music. But I'm telling you, I remember one of the last conversations that we had was the week after 9/11. And he came out the studio because we preempted Tom Joyner's show because Tom Joyner was on vacation doing 9/11. And our vice president asked Tom, you ain't got to come off vacation, my brother, but please do a call in because your voice needs to be heard on your show. And Tom refused to do it. I got a call the day that Monday, I was on my way home. Judy Ellis was the vice president. She said, Fatin, can you put together a show? I said, damn right I can, on 9/11. So we did a show. We preempted Tom Joyner, and I give ABC Network at the time, they did cut-ins of Open Line. Open Line came on for 4 hours. We did the morning show in the New York Tri-State because of all the lives that were lost, and they were still looking for people to see if there were any survivors, you know. So our prayers and again goes out to Fat Man Scoop. Hate to start this show on a downer, but this is part of the news, and we can talk about anything that has been in the news. So I'm cool, Joe. I'm fine, you know.
All right.
I mean,
so
you know, let's roll.
32 minutes past the hour. Welcome to hashtag Truth Be Told. Yours truly, Joe Dupree from 100 BLK, the Black Station. My brother Fatim from the Open Lines Online, and keeping it real with Reverend Al Sharpton, 107.5 WBLS in New York City. Sports is back, and football, college football is back. And listen up, family. Because of the transfer portal and other things that are going on, it ain't like it used to be. Powerhouse in the ACC, the Florida State Seminoles. First, they went to Ireland, and the luck of the Irish made it that Georgia Tech said, oh, no, you don't. At the last minute, they got a winning field goal that a lot of folks said, okay, that could have went one way, could have went the other. That Florida State at number 10. But last night, there was a chink in the armor because in Tallahassee, at their home stadium, Boston College said, no, sirree, bye. We ain't scared of y'all no more. They wind up losing. Then you got number 23, USC, playing in Las Vegas against the number 13 team in the country, a perennial power in the SEC, the LSU Tigers. And guess what? Lo and behold, SC wins. Y'all get ready for some real football, and don't for 1 minute, because your team is high ranked and your team got something going on that you feel like, oh man, look at my team. My team ranked in the top 5, the top 10. With this transfer portal, there's some athletes out there, and these teams are showing up and they ain't scared of you. Now, in HBCU football, you know, a lot of folks put their money on in the SWAC that Prairie View was going to be the team, but it seems to be Texas Southern ain't playing. So basically all the SWAC teams lost no matter who they played, except I think 2. And that was Texas Southern and Florida A&M, the Rattlers. So and that might be a preview right there of the SWAC championship if some things don't change. Our Southern University Jaguars, we played in McNeese in a game that we should have won between mistakes and errors. And just not the feeling that they wanted to win. But they had a lot of penalties, a lot of mental errors. I believe the Jaguars will be back this Saturday to win a game as they play the Pete Richardson Classic. If you don't know who Pete Richardson is, he's one of the famous, well-known HBCU coaches up there with names like Cassim and like Robertson. Google the name Pete Richardson, a living legend, known as the dean of the SWAC. So football is back, man. And I know pro football is getting ready to kick off. I know you are getting ready to be a happy Cowboy fan. I don't know who y'all play the first game of the season.
Well, I don't
keep up with nobody but these guys. And we gonna be in hot Atlanta. We're gonna be in hot Atlanta. I'm flying it upside down like I'm a Supreme Justice. Hold up, that's who I rock with. So I know what we gonna be in Atlanta, and we gonna have Russell Williams, and we gonna win. That's what I
Yeah.
see.
So let's talk about that. So NFL football season starts off. So there's a lot of people that watch the show and they have their own team. So I'm not going to just promote my team right now. I'm going to talk about NFL there. Again, I'm a baseball guy. You see that, but I got the football paraphernalia. I'm going to mix it up this year. I'm going to get some other gear as well. But we kick off football.
Some other
NFL kicks off
football
this
gear?
Thursday.
You
Yeah,
gonna get
I
some other
got
football?
football. Oh yeah, again, yeah,
You gonna get
Jets.
some other football gear?
Yeah, I'm getting all. Yeah, definitely.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay, okay.
definitely. I'm getting the Jets and stuff. Don't worry about it.
Okay.
Yeah, Casey. Yeah, me and Carl Banks gonna have a talk. If he send me something, then I'll wear a Giant gear. And because I don't hate the Giants, But anyway, this Thursday, September 5th, 8:20 p.m. Eastern time, the Baltimore Ravens play the Kansas City Chiefs.
Ooh, that's gonna be a game.
Friday night football.
That's gonna be a
The
game.
next night at 8:15 p.m. Eastern time, the Green Bay Packers play the Philadelphia Eagles.
Ooh,
Eagles
that's
are
gonna
a
be a
stronger
game too.
team.
That's gonna be
Then
a game too.
Sunday, and these are the 1 p.m. games, the Panthers play the Saints. They play in New Orleans. The Vikings
Yes,
play the
sir.
Giants in New Jersey. The Patriots play the Bengals. The Steelers play the Falcons.
Hey,
Texans
hey.
play the Colts. The Cardinals play the Bills. And the Titans play the Bears. Jaguars play the Dolphins. And then we go to the afternoon games, 4:05 p.m. Eastern time starts. The Broncos play the Seahawks. Raiders play the Chargers. Cowboys are in Cleveland where they play the Browns. The Commanders play the Buccaneers. And then Sunday night football, the Rams play the Lions. And then Monday night football, the New York Jets play the San Francisco 49ers. So
Wow.
that is the first week of there.
Jets. Come
Yep.
on. That's gonna
And
be
then in
good.
baseball, this is interesting because you see me once in a while wear Atlanta shirt, and I just wear it because I'm in the South and not a Atlanta-based fan. I got go.
I see you with the Mets. You with the Mets. I see you. Hey.
Come on,
a
baby.
Mets. That is a real
Come
Mets
on.
fan right
All
there.
right,
That is a
be-
Mets fan right there. Go ahead.
Yeah, so the Mets are a half a game behind Atlanta Braves for the last wild card spot. The Yankees are in first place. They keep switching and swapping, flip-flopping with the Baltimore Orioles there. So baseball is in pretty much this last month. It goes into the first week of October. There's going to be some good games. So we'll see where that goes. And then after that, with football will be in full swing, college football will be in full swing. Then we'll start to get ready for the basketball season. So so sports is active here. And, a lot of people deal with sports because they like sports, but it also takes them away from the hustle and the bustle of the daily life of living life, So that's what's going on.
Hold it. And it is September. September, family. It's the third day of September. So, and September is a great month for me. My firstborn, my oldest, he was born in September, the 21st of September to be exact. So, September is a great time, as once September is over, you're really in 90 days before the new year. You got October, November, December, then it's a new year. So September, once the football starts rolling, I always tell people, this is when I'm in the fastest part of my life because of everything I do. And because I do so much in so many different places. And of course, I travel with Southern University and Southern University Jaguar football. I'm at all the games all the way up into the Bayou Classic. And should we make it to the SWAC championship, I'm there. Should we make it to the Black National Championship, I'm there also. So, this is just a quick season for me. Next thing I know, I blink my eyes and it is January the 1st and it's a new year. And speaking of which, a lot is going on. Super Bowl is going to be in New Orleans. Then listen to me, family. I'm in there. So I'm going to be a lot of places sports wise, doing my thing. I kind of showed you a little bit on my social media page of us down at McNeese, but I travel with the Jaguars, HBCU football, and we have a great time. So leave it plugged into us here. Don't forget the Jaguar football show. I'm gonna have to show y'all that. I'll post that up later. But man, it's going to be a fast pace. Before you know it, year be gone.
I mean, we snapped. Like I said, when Memorial Day came in, the unofficial start of the summer, I was saying to the New Yorkers on my WBLS on air show, I said, "You'll snap your fingers, and we'll be at the unofficial end of summer, Labor Day," and that just took place yesterday. So things are changing. Lot a lot of things is changing. I just was, you know. I don't really need. It's not much to hit on politics really right now. I think that what we need is we're leading up to the debate. So
Right.
there's different polls out there, but the polls don't really they gauge, but we're not 100% behind 100% of these polls. But the debate is coming up, and I need to look up that date. I think it's in about 2 weeks, and then we'll get the conversation as we lead into election day. So again, unless there's more news coming out there, I think the thing that we're anticipating is the presidential debate, between Vice President Kamala Harris and former President Donald Trump. So that's that. I think I'll just leave that right there.
No,
And yes, Michael.
And Brother Fatim, speaking about that, y'all need everybody who can tune in needs to be tuned in because you need to hear what they're saying to you. And you need to be a fact checker. You need to understand not only you need to pay attention to what they're saying, you need to ask what have they done or what does their record say? Because most of the times they tell me this, Brother Fatim, and I'm going to leave this one alone because I know you want to go to Brother Michael Keefe's actual comment. But I want to say this. Stop listening to what everybody say and look at what they've done and compare their record to their rhetoric. And if their record and their rhetoric match up, then you can say pretty much that's who they are. But if their record and their rhetoric don't match up, then you got to start questioning, are they going to do what they say they're going to do? Because they can tickle your ears. But the question is, can they do what needs to be done to bring about a positive change in your holistic life? Brother Fatim, go ahead, hit him with that comment.
All right. So Michael Key says September to remember. Then he comes back and said Earth, Wind, and Fire made a song called September.
Oh, yeah.
And then KC said that I love it. So my question to the folks in the chat, you got a job to do to help Brother Fatim today, to help me, to help those that may have had or having a challenge in their life. I know we've talked about music on this show. We talked about movies. We talked about actors, actresses, and stuff like that. We're going to go back to music, but I need you to put in the chat. What is a go-to song that helps you or you want to recommend to me or whatever? Now, remember, I'm a musicologist. So I know a lot of music, but I just want to hear from the folks. What is a go-to song that helps cheer you up or picks up your mood? You understand what I'm saying? It could be gospel, it could be blues. Blues brings you a little bit here, but it could be inspirational. It could be R&B. I mean, it could be rock. I mean, what is a song that is a go-to song or a song that you recommend to myself, to those that may have had hit a little rough patch to kind of pick up their spirit, and put that in the chat. Let's change this energy because we got to pick this energy up here. What's a song? All right, give me a song, Joe.
So we're going to put that in the chat, but before we put it in the chat, I do have to put one other thing out there, and we got to give just a little bit of, I don't call it bad news, it's kind of good news. If you were a DirecTV customer, and there's a lot of DirecTV customers out there, Direct and Disney kind of got into a little dispute. You signed the contract? No, I ain't signing the contract. You signed. And then, so Disney said, y'all don't want to play with us? We're going to pull all of our ESPN and ABC programming. And a lot of folks were like, wait a minute. I didn't get to see my game. I didn't get to see this. I didn't get to see that. But DirecTV said they're going to compensate their customers for the outage from their little dispute with Disney because them and Mickey didn't get along too well. And Mickey said, I'm pulling everything. So with that being said, I see some people are putting songs into the, man, listen here. Doug Gitry, I got to Douglas. This ain't today, but we're going to put it out there. Doug said, Luther Campbell, 2 Live Crew.
I mean, so Doug, that's cool. You may, and I can turn that into something positive. Damn right. because sometimes you need to pick up the mood, your mood. And
Your
I've seen
mojo.
people. No, well, your mojo, but I've seen people being down, and I've seen their lady come over and pick them up and kiss them on the neck, and next thing you know, they horny, and it picks up your mood. So I can take this and roll with it and make it positive. Like what Michael Keith came back and he said, Brother Fatin, love is the message by MFSB, Mother's Father, Sister, Brother, Philadelphia International, 1973, 72 going into 73 song. Love is the message. I come out of the borough of Brooklyn, New York. Love is the message was back, especially 80s, late 70s, 80s, 90s, was always known as the anthem, the anthem for people out of Brooklyn. That's true. Love is the message is one of my go-to songs, man. And since even when I was DJing, that was one of the songs that you would go to the parks, the clubs, and they rock the message. And if you was an MC, you would rock it. So yes, that does pick up your spirits. Willie Pickens say, "We Are One" by Maze. I learned that Before I Let Go was the anthem to Harlem Manhattans, or the Harlem Nights. So when I went to college, we had Love is the Message from Brooklyn. But my brothers and sisters that came out of Harlem was like, yo, Frankie Beverly and Maze, Before I Let Go was their anthem. But Willie Pickens says, "We Are One." Another good song. And it's encouraging because it builds on we are one, making us work together and unifying us. So that was really good. KC says Fantasia, Believe. That's another good song. When I was driving my daughters to school, that song Fantasia, and you know, for me, Fantasia and what's the sister girl name that did Aretha Franklin movie?
Jennifer Hudson.
Jennifer Hudson. They sisters coming off of, you got to realize, coming off of American Idol, and then going in, and their music on the radio at the same time. It was such an awesome. I'm telling you, it was a great time.
So from our YouTube channel, we've got Desmond Walls. It says gospel song. Donnie McClurkin, Stan, great gospel song. When I started off in radio, doing my own morning show, the first full-time morning show that I had, that was me solo bolo. I did a show called Upbeat Gospel. It was the only gospel morning show at that time being done during prime time, Monday through Friday, from 5 a.m. to 9 a.m. on a radio station. And actually we beat Steve Harvey in the ratings in our local area twice. But you know, a lot of us are very much caught up into the spirituality and the gospel music and the inspirational music. That's a great song. I see KC came back again with yes, you can do it. Hold on. And then I see No Weapon Formed Against Me. Hold up. Now watch this one. How many of y'all know about some Lou Rawls? Come on, talk to me, Fatin. Come on, talk to me.
Groovy people. That's another. It's interesting, you know. Lou Rawls is not my genre of music, but you know,
you'll never find.
Oh yeah,
bloom, bloom.
Still said that Lou Rawls did not deserve that Grammy over What's Happening, you know, What's Going On by Marvin Gaye. But Lou Rawls is a giant. So Groovy People is a really good song. Douglas Guidry comes back and he said he likes Willie Hutch, Rock This House. And then Dre Watson says, keep your head to the sky, Earth, Wind, and Fire, More Than I Can Bear, God's Property, Optimistic Sounds of Blackness. Donny Hathaway, Young, Gifted, and Black. That's by Douglas Guidry. Rhonda Hairston says, Reasons. Stop, Look, and Listen to Your Heart. Stop, Look, and Listen. Stop, Look, and Listen. I know
you remember that song.
I know the song. I'm just trying to think of the artist. That wasn't Blue Magic.
On our YouTube page, we got Joy and Pain.
Who's that by?
Joy and Pain. That's well, it depends on which one you
Frankie
talk about.
Beverly and Maze. That's
Right.
the one. Or
Are you talking about, of course, there was a remake on the rap side by Rock Bass and DJ Easy Rock.
they ain't talking about that. I know they ain't talking. But
All right.
That's a good party song. It's a
it
good
really
party
is.
song.
It really is.
It's a good party song.
Got Black Butterfly out here. Somebody talking about the stylistics. I'm talking about, come on now.
Yes.
That's what I'm saying. Listen, family, one thing about us, we're going to find some music to get us moving. We're going to find some music to get us grooving. We're going to find some music to lift us up, because on this third day of September, family, if you woke up this morning and you're breathing, you should be happy. You should be happy, regardless of what's going on around you. If you woke up this morning breathing, because I just look on my right-hand side here, I get to see what's happening. And there is a lot of death going on throughout the country. And with that being said, I'm going to flip this over to Brother Fatim. I got to take this one.
All right. So it's interesting that Rhonda, let me see. Michael Keith said Brothers Going to Work It Out by Willie Hutch. That's the one that's the one I know. Rhonda Harrison says the Stylistics. The Stylistics say, yeah, thank you, Sister Stylistics, on that song. They had a lot of hits. And there was a song that they came out in the 1980 by the Stylistics. And let me see if I can pull that song up real quick. The Stylistics did in 1980. Let's see real quick. I was playing Public Enemy this morning. Fight the Power. That's the mood I was in, y'all. That's the mood I was in. The Stylistics is a song, Hurry Up This Way Again. Because, of course, You Are Everything, and going back into Stop, Looking, Listen, as you just said, Sister Rhonda, thank you. Break Up to Make Up, You Meet Me, Feel Brand New, Bet You by Golly Wild. Stylistics, yo, back in the day, again, I was a kid. If I was a teenager, Lord have mercy. This kind of music here, wow, this love music here. This here is the music to go. This is the way to go. Let me give a shout out, and Joe didn't say it, but anybody celebrating a birthday today, happy birthday to you. Let me say happy birthday to my ex-girlfriend from college, Carol Span Vega. She is married now. That's she is Mrs. Vega. So shout out to her. Got to acknowledge, that she is married. And shout out to Dominic McNeil McFarland, because she's been on the show. That's this young sister who lost her 2 sons tragically at Myrtle Beach back in around 2016 to drowning. And her birthday was yesterday. So happy birthday to her. I got a chance to, she was at the gym. She came after me at the gym and worked out this morning. So I got a chance to see her as well. So happy birthday to Dominique, and to anybody that is celebrating a birthday. Shout out to my sister from another mother, Ruthie Grant from Borough of Brooklyn. We grew up, like, she was so close to my family, and she grew up as my sister. Let's see what else we got up. Rhonda says, yes, Break Up to Make Up. I remember. Break Up, man. I can't sing, so ain't no use of me trying to sing that song, but that is correct. Michael Keith, come back. People Makes the World Go Round by the Stylistics as well. And music it can become timeless. Michael Keith says, happy blessed birthday to all the September birthday babies out there. Virgo. That's the first time I dealt with a Virgo in college. I didn't have too many serious committed relationships. I just only had about 3 committed relationships. And ain't filling in all the gaps now, but I just had 3 really committed relationships out in my life, So there. Yeah, that's just about it. Any more songs out there? Oh God, somebody was laughing. Any more songs out there? Let me think of a song. There's so many songs that can pick you up, or artists that can pick you up. Whitney Houston, when Whitney Houston came out, Whitney Houston, some of her music, it was uplifting. I gotta give Whitney Houston. Rhonda Hairston says, my great-granddaughter, 6 years today, she will be attending school learning Black history as it should have been in New York City. Thank goodness change is on the horizon. My granddaughter, 6 years today, she will be attending school learning Black history as it should have been in New York City. And see, now New York City has a Black history curriculum from K through 12. So from kindergarten through your senior year in high school, Black history there's a new curriculum that is implemented in New York State, not just New York City, but New York State. And that's another thing. And then I saw something on the news the other day where they went to certain high schools and looked at certain history books and some of the words that they are putting in there. So instead of slaves, they use immigrants. That's why I'm saying you really need to get into seeing what your children are reading or studying in these schools. That's another thing. You really need to do that. Also, last night I had a very good conversation with my family. We were talking about ChatGPT. How many of you are up on ChatGPT? Because if you're not up on ChatGPT, I'm telling you, technology is going to run over you, and y'all think y'all going to be doing arithmetic and writing, sitting up here and getting pen and paper and trying to write or get on the laptop. Man, people are breezing by, putting a little bit of highlights in there, and ChatGPT write out everything. I put a very little paragraph, not even a paragraph, maybe 4 lines about my cousin and her mother, their mother and father. It wrote me 4 paragraphs about my family last night, about my family. So I'm telling you, technology is changing, and I don't know where it's headed, but I'm telling you, if you're not up on this game, I'm telling you, it's going to pass you. It's definitely going to pass you by.
Well, guess who's back? And not only guess who's back, you know what time it is. I don't know if y'all know what time it is, but it is Tuesday. Tell the Truth Tuesday. And on this day, guess what we tell folks? You need to get checked, get fit, and get it moving. That's what we tell them. We tell them get checked, get fit, and get it moving. Why? Because diabetes, high blood pressure, obesity, all kind of manners of disease run rampant in our Black and brown communities. But we decided to bring a brother in here who is a doctor. The doctor is in the building to begin giving you the conversations that you might need to start with your physician to get your life back on track and in a better place. Because a healthy you is a better you. Now, understand, we're not giving any professional advice here. We're only doing this for informational purposes and to be a blessing to you. So that's our disclaimer. You need to go see your physician, because everything that we say here, you need to go and make sure your physician is saying it to you, or in the method that they need to say it to you, that you have a healthy, and long and prosperous life. With that being said, guess who in the building? Hey,
good morning.
There he is. What up, Doc? What up?
Morning,
What's
Doc.
happening? What's happening?
Yeah.
Good morning. Good morning.
How you doing, my brother?
I'm good, man. Good, man. Coming off a long weekend, getting it going.
Got it. So I got something for you, this morning.
Yeah.
And, I got to start this off. And I'm doing something here, but September is what? Sickle Cell Awareness Month. So
Here we go. Yes.
So I'm just going to start this. He's the doctor and I'm the advocate. So let's put that in that perspective. And a lot of times the advocates, and we're not doctors, but what we're doing is we're advocating for either ourselves or our loved one when it comes down to sickle cell disease. And just for folks, just to give you a little overview of this here, sickle cell anemia is basically a genetic blood disorder that causes red blood cells to become misshapen like a sickle and break down, leading to chronic health issues. The impact on the African American community, what we do is we highlight that sickle cell disease disproportionately affects African Americans, with 1 in 12 carrying the sickle cell trait and 1 in 365 being born with the disease. We can also talk about some of the symptoms, which the doc can go into, such as severe pain, anemia, fatigue, and complications like stroke, organ damage, and increased risk of infections. It's very important of early detection. And that's why we fought for newborn screening for all newborns that were born. And I think we have it 50 states. I believe we have it 50 states that any child born in the United States, they'll test for sickle cell disease or the sickle cell trait. And that's so important. And then, of course, there's advances in treatment out there. And then how do you live with sickle cell? How do you live a healthy lifestyle with sickle cell disease? So, Doc, I'll throw it to you because that's how we met when I was talking to your assistant about sickle cell disease, where her loved one has sickle cell disease. I believe it's her son. And then my late wife, we've been together, were together for 32 years. And like I said, didn't know anything about sickle cell disease when I met her and had to learn it. But not only advocating for her, but advocating for other sickle cell patients in her hospital and across the city of New York.
So with that, that's a great summary of sickle cell disease. More importantly, it's a great summary of how we met, actually. And the conversation morphed into kind of what I do with health education and speaking from the media perspective. We're really talking about the fact that though we, as scientists, go to school and learn a lot of words, we learn about the art and practice of medicine. The true experts on any disease process are actually people and the people around them that live with the disease. Again, it's my executive program manager and colleague and friend, went through sickle cell and goes through sickle cell. Her son is actually he's thriving. He's 6'9". He's married. He's got his second child on the way. He's in his 20s, so he's thriving. He's doing very well. But it's been a journey, and I often get asked to speak about different things, particularly sickle cell disease. And the way that you and I bonded was that, what I actually envision is letting the experts really speak on sickle cell disease. I can tell you about the pathophysiology and that the fact that when the cells sickle, they are not able to properly hold on to oxygen, just like other quote unquote normal or non-pathologic cells can. And then the consequences of not being oxygenated, the pain associated with the crises. But if you can really just kind of walk us through from where you knew nothing about sickle cell disease, other than you'd heard about it in our community and you might have known about it, just walk from the point where you knew nothing about sickle cell to the point where you are now, because you truly embody what an advocate for any patient or any person dealing with a health issue would be, in my opinion, which is why I said that I want to set up a scenario, especially for sickle cell, where I have actually you and my assistant be the experts, because it's the practical information and the digestible message and the identifying with your stories which is where that's where the gold lies.
Right. So what happens is when I met my wife at the time, and her birth name is Sharon Yolanda Simmons, and I gave her the name Hanifa. When I met her and her girlfriend, that they pretty much went like sisters because they grew up in the hospital together. They both had sickle cell disease and they both had SS. There's different terms, there's different SS, SC, but they both were SS. So they were both pretty knowledgeable, Dr. Griggs, in their disease. I hate to say it, but that's what their disease. So I learned from them basically because they advocated for one another. And not only did they advocate for one another, they had a strong pediatric hematology team. Mm-hmm. At that particular time, as you know, hematology and oncology deal with blood and blood disorder and cancer with the oncology part. And they had a very strong, like I said, pediatric team. Why do I say that? Because my wife did not graduate graduate to the adult hematology the department till she was 28 years old.
Which, by the way, folks, is very common because of the relationship they have with their pediatric hematology oncologist from children. And it's not just from the patient perspective. The pediatric oncologists don't want to let them go. They see them. It's a relationship. It's a very personal relationship. Keep going.
Exactly. So what happens is not only through their advocacy, they were part of organizations. The organization that I was first introduced that they both were part of was called the Sickle Cell Thalassemia Patients Network in New York City. And not only was this an organization, they put out literature. They talked about pain management, they talk about treatment, and they put out statistics. So it was a study guide. So for me, I'm on the job training when my wife would go into sickle cell crisis and I would have to take her to the emergency room. Now, when she went to the emergency room, there were doctors that we became familiar with, that they were also familiar with my wife. So it was times, as the doctor know, when you come in, you're supposed to be triage. When you come in with sickle cell crisis, they pretty much bring you, if it's not over capacitated, they bring you right in the back. They try to get fluid started and draw your bloods before they give you pain meds. But
so folks, real quick, when he says come in for crisis, people coming in for this, people with sickle cell come in for pain crises. Because of the misshapen sickle cells, you tend to have blocked blood flow, which can cause severe, when I say severe pain, it's pain if you've never had pain, if you're not, if you don't suffer with the disease, it's a lot of times it's something that is misdiagnosed and they're mistreated when they go in. Which is, again, why we're talking about advocacy, because it can cause severe pain. So that's the crises that he's talking about due to block flow. And, of course, decreased oxygenation and other complications. Keep going. I'm sorry. I told you I'm just going to pepper you with no science. Keep going.
This is good. This is good. So one of the things, as my wife would say, could you describe the pain? She said it's just like slamming my hand into a car door and leaving it. That's the kind of pain that's the best way that she could at least describe it. So on the job,
all over her body, right? Though all over her body.
That's right.
Not just her hand, everywhere. Yeah.
Yes, it could be in her knees, it could be in her back, it could be in her arms. And when we would get to the hospital, I watched the regimen, how they would go about, how they would do this. Now, the reason why I said they supposed to get an IV, get fluid in, because the fluid helps push these blocked cells, try to get it through.
Yeah.
Exactly. And then when they get your hemoglobin, because they don't want to dilate, they want to see what your hemoglobin, not your blood. They want to see what your hemoglobin, they want to see what your WBC, which is your white blood count. They want to see what your retic count is, your white blood count, because if it's elevated, you might have some type of infection.
So retics, folks, are immature cells. The retic cells, once your body gets in crisis, it tries to make other cells to help compensate, to get the oxygen up. We're in crisis. So it goes to the younger cells. It's like getting teenagers, like teenage red blood cells. And that's the retics. Your body's making little small red blood cells trying to help compensate. Keep going. That's all right.
So sometimes, so you usually, if you pretty much know what your base. My wife's hemoglobin base was about 8.2. She was able to function at 8.2. That was pretty much her base. If it fell below then we're looking at to see if it's going to continue to fall, or if we can stabilize the body and it can come up, or do they have to give a transfusion there? One thing I just want to say to the doctor real quick, because I call it a false positive, is that some sickle cell patients become dehydrated because when they're in pain, sometimes it's very hard to drink. So when they take that initial blood sample, their hemoglobin may be higher than their base, but that's because the red blood cell is made of plasma and water. And if it's dehydrated, you'll get more of a plasma reading. So that's why you get a higher hemoglobin. Am I right, Doc?
Absolutely right. It's brilliant. Yes, keep going.
All right. So as I'm watching and learning this regimen, I'm also reading books. And as I'm reading books, I'm not only working with the hematology doctors, I'm working with emergency room doctors, but then pain management comes in. And the reason why because some sickle cell patients get labeled as what is called frequent flyers. Frequent flyers are labeling sickle cell patients that they want to come in and be just for pain meds. But pain management has said, and through studies that said that sickle cell is a chronic disease, you have to treat the pain. And very few get addicted to the pain meds. But if they do, we have protocols and mechanisms to deal with if there is addiction. But this is chronic pain and it has to be dealt with. But for me, as I'm advocating for, as I'm learning about sickle cell, the little bit of advocating is to make sure she's comfortable, to make sure that every 3 to 4 hours that she get her pain meds in the emergency room, if she's not going to be admitted, that she's getting that, to make sure that their heart stick, sometimes their heart sticks to find their veins, just to make sure that the IV doesn't run out and they blow the vein. So this is my basic advocacy at this particular time as I'm learning about the disease. As time goes on, I learn more of the disease through experience, through reading, and then speaking with other doctors and health professionals that associated with sickle cell and other disease, because my wife had staph, she became septic, which means septicemia, meaning that infection spilled into the bloodstream.
Staph meaning methicillin resistant, that MRSA that people talk about. Staphylococcus, Staph aureus is a bacteria that you run the risk of, especially people with compromised immune systems. The immune systems are compromised because of the sickling of the cells, the decreased blood flow, the misshapen cells, red blood cells, and again, the frequent IVs and procedures can cause a risk of infection. Is something that we worry about. So when he says staph infection, that's what he's talking about. Keep going. And I want to really emphasize to you again, though the patients come in and they often require strong medications like opioids or narcotics, the relative percentage of patients that become addicted to them, sickle cell patients, is exactly as Brother Fatin said, very low. They need these medications for the most part. Most of them need these medications in order to get out of crisis. It's a pain, unless you've experienced it, you won't understand. Correct?
Exactly. You know that. So one of the things for me is that as I'm going along and learning about the disease, and I'm learning, by speaking with different people, I also see some of the challenges that sickle cell patients were facing in the hospital. Some due to racism, some due to ignorance, some due to stereotypes. You also have a lot of doctors that are, I call them textbook doctors, that they learn as they're learning, and they generalize all sickle cell patients. Well, if your hemoglobin is a 9, you really shouldn't be in crisis. That's stereotyping and kind of doing a gloss overview of all sickle cell patients. And you have to deal with each patient individually, because the hemoglobin and how sickle cell relates to them can be different. So Doc, just to sum this up, is that over time, I realized as my wife got older, her crisis got harder on her, meaning that she could go in the hospital, be admitted into the hospital, and stay in for a week, maybe 2 weeks. But as time went on, she developed more infections. She also developed longer stays. She would go in the hospital. Sometimes she would be in there for 4 weeks, and there would be different things that would occur. So this is how I learned. And then I realized that it's very hard for a sickle cell patient in pain. When you're balled up in pain, sometimes you can hardly speak. You can't advocate for yourself, So if you can't advocate for yourself, the best thing is to have a loved one or someone that can speak for you, that can tell the doctors and the health professionals your protocol, how do you respond to certain things, certain medicines that you be allergic to. It's really good to have a medical list and these things that you're allergic to. We were trying to create a 50-state database so that if you went into the hospital, because different hospitals do different treatments. Some use a PCA pump and some did not. They just hung the bag and had the IV going straight in. And then, the PCA pump, because that would administer pain meds. And sometimes my wife would be injected with Demerol shots. And if you do not administer these pain meds, these narcotics properly, then it could burn you. My wife was given a Demerol shot. Instead of into the muscle, it was given under the skin. By giving it under the skin, it burnt a hole in her thigh.
Mm-hmm.
So by burning a hole in her thigh, what it did is it started to heal from the outside instead of from the inside out. So it developed a scab over it. So when she went into the emergency room, because it was having pus come out of it, they had to remove the scab. They had to clean it and say it has to air. You can't cover this up. It has to heal from the inside. So these are the things that I learned. And then by advocating for these things, I started to work with different departments, the hematology department, pain management department. And then I would go and speak during Sickle Cell Awareness Month at different hospitals. And what some of these departments, especially pain management, is that they would let me speak first because I didn't have MD behind my name. And the reason why they would do that, because they were trying to teach and show the health professionals, even though we're not doctors, that you should listen to the patients and their loved ones and take that in consideration with your diagnosis at the end of the day. Because if you put all this together, that can give a better treatment and hopefully get the patient out of their crisis and or whatever challenges that their health challenges they're dealing with, and get them out of the hospital and get them home.
So this is such a it's a ball of twine that I want to start teasing apart. Folks, I hope what you're paying attention to is, you notice I'm quiet. I'm listening because he's saying everything, all the things that you would love to hear from a family member or a loved one. The reason why it's important, he talked about with reference to his wife, is the fact that a lot of times when it's the actual patient and you're in pain, they can't advocate for themselves because you're in pain. You also talked about the lens, and we can talk about some of those experiences. You try to not have a biased perspective in something as objective as healthcare, but biases do exist, and they can have crucial consequences based on that if you're not able to express yourself or have someone with you that can speak for you, that has the ability to explain things things in such a way that the full picture is painted so you can be treated. Brother Fatinda has done an amazing job of caring for his wife and then really learning the processes. You don't worry about the science and all that stuff. I got that. The doctors and the scientists and the nurses and the team had that perspective, but learn and ask all of the hard questions. Brother Fatinda, if you could talk about some of the instances where that actually was, it was crucial. You mentioned about noticing the Demerol going into sub-Q instead of into the muscle. But let's talk about some of the biases and some of the things that happened possibly at an ER presentation or in a visit that you might have had, where if you had not spoken up and talked about and shown your understanding of the science to help influence what needed to be done next, things could have turned out differently.
Wow. Well, the first.
I know you got a list. You told me that when we met. Start with one and let's pivot.
Yeah. So one of the things is I talk about is the inferior treatment in the emergency room. So my wife she was prescribed, and when you hear this, the doctor even going to say, "Whoa, that's a lot." But because my wife was had Staph aureus infection. Right. Mm-hmm. So what happens is her blood became septic, meaning that the staph was in her blood system. And what it also does is it can throw it somewhere else. So it threw it into her lungs. So she got staph pneumonia as well. So when she developed this, how she caught staph, we narrowed it down that she caught it in the hospital due to a doctor threading a femoral line, that's basically a central line, through her groin area. And what happens, he got a page and he put the material on the bed. That's a no-no because of germs. When he came back, he finished and he threaded the line. And we felt that she caught the staph like that. The problem is hospital-bred staph it mutates and it can become resistant to the antibiotic. At the particular time, the highest antibiotic at that time was vancomycin.
Rough on the kidneys. Which is rough on the kidneys.
Right, which later on, my wife developed renal failure and had to go on dialysis. So you're right, it's very tough. So, but at that particular time, they had to administer this because if they don't, it would kill her. And when this happened, at least in the hospital in New York, when these kind of infections take over, infectious disease steps in. So in the infectious disease, doctors work with her team of doctors on the treatment. But the doctor said, and this is very important, since it mutates, it can become resistant to the antibiotic. Dr. Bedside Manners, that doctor was not the best. He was really harsh with me, but he did give it to me straight. He said, if the vancomycin didn't work, she's going to die because we have no other way to kill this bacteria. You understand? So it did work, and they didn't have to intubate her because they thought they had to intubate her. They didn't have to do it, and she beat that. She beat that one there. But to go into what you said, the inferior treatment in the emergency room. And the reason why I started with staph is that once she recovered from the staph, her immune system was taxed because when vancomycin goes in, this strong narcotic that is the fighting, it weakens your immune system because it's killing good and bad. It's trying to kill the bad, but it can also kill some of your good, I don't know what you call it, bacteria. Yeah. There you go. There you go. So the doctor said, I need to keep you out of the hospital because you are more prevalent to go in the hospital and pick up another infection and it may kill you. So he wrote.
And the reason why, let me interject really quickly. He mentioned potentially the nidus or the source of the infection being the bed. We have bacteria on everything around us. We have bacteria on our skin. We have bacteria on table. We have bacteria. There are bacteria everywhere that are normally benign or not harmful, or they're not in enough numbers to be harmful unless they're introduced to a fully sterile environment, which is relatively sterile, which is the inside of our bodies, in enough of an amount to multiply and cause a problem. So when you're in the hospital, think about it, you have a lot of people that might be ill. You have a lot of material that can hold different bacteria and different things. And you have to practice universal precautions as best you possibly can. So that's why her doctor was saying that we want to keep you out of the hospital as much as possible.
Right. So the doctor prescribed enough medicine. Percocet, the strength was 10/325. The 325 was the acetaminophen, which is Tylenol, that part there. And he also prescribed something a little stronger. It could have been MS-Contin or it could be OxyContin at that particular time. Now, imagine her having this type of medicine at home to treat. If she has a little ache and pain, she'll take the Percocet. If she had stronger pain, she would take the MS-Contin or the OxyContin. The MS-Contin was more time release. OxyContin tends to work pretty direct. Now, if that didn't work, she would come into the emergency room to get treatment. But what happens is we were starting to run into the era of the misuse of opioids. So now when they come into the hospital and they're coming in with sickle cell crisis and some are looked at is that they're abusing the medicine, they tend to put in a protocol in the hospital that they started off with giving them a very little pain meds. So if my wife has stronger pain meds, then when she comes in and they want to give her a pill, she's like, I had pills at home. This is not working. So this is one example. Yeah. So this is one example.
This is where the plot thickens right there. The moment she says that, there's a different reaction, correct?
Yes. So what happens is a different reaction, but because of who I am and the advocate that I am and the people that I know from politicians, this, that, and the other, I don't call them yet, but I have a great relationship with her internal medicine doctor. I have a very good relationship with him. So he understands. So what he would do is he lived in the neighborhood. So if she was in the emergency room, he would come in, write her orders, and then go to the office. And if the emergency room doctor had to admit her, then he would come back after work. But you know what happened? The emergency room doctors didn't like that. So, the administrator of the hospital said, no outside doctor, when you say outside, affiliated with the hospital, can override or come into the ER and override an emergency room doctor because he or her are running the emergency room. They're responsible. So that created a conflict. So the doctor already know this is a conflict. So what he did is he said, during business hours, if you get sick and you don't have to be transmitted right away, call the office. I have my secretary call admitting, get you admitted. Then I would bring you into a meeting, and then I can write the orders. I can call in your orders, and I have better control. That is one instant right there that we had to utilize our heads right there, Dr. Griggs, to go around or beat the system. I hate to say beat the system, but go around the system to make sure that she got proper treatment. Because as you know, if you go in there and you're suffering pain, the anxiety comes in, it increases your pain, and you're not getting the assistance that you expect to get once you wasn't getting it at home when you go to the hospital. That's one example.
So folks, this is the reason I wanted this to be illustrated, because you can take sickle cell disease, take that out and put in another disease process. One of the issues with equity you find in people of African descent, people like us, sickle cell disease is more prevalent in people of African descent. So we run into the issue of equity. So let's talk about, Brother Fatin, what, had you not come up with that system, I'm sure you have other stories from other patients that didn't have the luxury of having a doctor as vested and willing to talk and an advocate. What happens to a patient that doesn't have the doctor? That what would be the protocol? You started there. You went there. We hit the opioid era. They were coming up with different protocols. Let's say a patient just like your wife goes in, but she doesn't have you or the doctor. What happens? What do you hear about? What do you know about happens when I come in? I'm in crisis. I don't have you, and I don't have a doctor willing to go the extra mile so I can get to write my orders. What's the significance of that? I take pills at home, and I come in and I say, I take those pills at home. I need something stronger. I'm in pain. What happens?
Well, because you receive inferior treatment, you suffer. So not only are you physically suffering from the pain, you also suffering mentally because you have mental anguish. So this here creates a situation that I go into the hospital where I'm supposed to get help, and I'm not getting help, and I'm suffering. They don't understand what I'm going through. So what it creates is I want to stay away from the hospital as much as possible. And you wind up running the risk of becoming sicker. And honestly, you can honestly die. Yeah, you can die because of bias. What happens is patients with sickle cell, a lot of times when they're in crisis, you worry about them being labeled as drug seeking when the pain is real. Now, mind you, we're talking about adults. Pain crises happen in children. So we can extrapolate this down to what happens to the kid being labeled at school. The amount of school that kids tend to miss because they're hospitalized, and they have to be. You mentioned that your wife was in for 4 weeks at a time, but during a pain crisis, can you describe how long a typical pain crisis might last, and how long she might be out of commission or in the hospital? I've seen it. Let's just say, Doc, if it was just a sickle cell crisis with no infection, it would last about 2 weeks. If there's usually some type of infection, when I say infection, let's talk about it. It could be something at the UTI. It could be a sore throat. It could be an ear infection that raises your white blood count. That becomes like a domino effect of other things happening. But the amount of time, if she had an infection, but not something as severe as staph or any other like what is it? Gram negative. Yeah, gram
Gram
positive or
negative.
gram negative. Exactly. If it's not something like that, which usually again spills into the blood system, and how they find out that these infections is that they when they take your
Culture.
blood, blood cultures. They grow it in a petri dish to find out exactly what you have. She could be out of commission from 2 to 4 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Now there
Totally
are
out of
some
commission.
sickle cell patients that they go in and they are in the hospital longer for their pain crises that they have. But there's just in the beginning, it would be 1 to 2 weeks, and then I started to see it expand as she got older. You know, we had children. We ran into the problem of having children. Hanifa would have miscarriages. We didn't know what it was. We thought it might have been a lack of a certain hormone in her body. I think she was taking progesterone suppositories. We were thinking that maybe her cervix was opening or dilating early. So they were thinking about, but they never did, sewing your cervix together to keep them together. But what we found out, or we thought we found out, is that when she became pregnant, the baby blood supply was the baby's blood supply, but my wife's blood supply fed the placenta. When it fed the placenta, it seems like not enough oxygen was going there.
Right.
And what we did is, when I say we did, because me and the doctor kind of came up with this idea, is I said, Doc, if that's the case, and we didn't know, but we said, if that's the case, we got to fake the body out. We got to make the body look like, instead of her having the disease where her hemoglobin is like an 8.2 or a little lower, we need to fake the body out like she may have the trait where she can keep her hemoglobin up somewhere to 12 or higher. So what we did is they gave her a blood exchange first, and then every 2 weeks she got a blood transfusion. And when we did it that way, we had our first child. After that pregnancy, she got pregnant again. She told the doctor, I don't want to have as many blood transfusions. We lost that child. It was our son. She got pregnant the third time. And I said to her, I can't go through this again if we don't do what we did the first time. And she said, I will do it that way. And we did. And we had our second child. Both of our children have the trait because she has SS. She throws one gene. I'm AA. I don't have the trait or the disease. I throw my A gene, and they have the trait. And then while she gave birth through C-section, she signed the paper on the table and she got a tubal ligation because we were blessed not with just one, but 2 children. And it was very difficult. And why I tried to have more children and not be here to raise the children that you have already here. So that's how we dealt with that situation.
So, folks, this is how we ended up here. We were in the press and media room at Essence after we finished working. I just finished moderating a panel. I was just doing the press row thing, and we had a conversation. And this is what everything that it is that we're doing is about: building a level of advocacy. How is that? I mean, we're using the big word, building a level of advocacy. No, having real conversations, asking real questions, not just about sickle cell, but about everything, and not being afraid to hold your doctors accountable for the answers and making them explain it to you. You know, one of the things, this is when we're broadcasting my title on this one, I was on this same platform for another interview last week for the Department of Health and Human Services. And they had me as I was during the pandemic, the 100 Black Men of America named me their COVID-19 chair because I was a face of COVID. Well, one of the things is, if you can remember, when the pandemic happened, it was something that none of us had heard about. I don't care how many degrees you have. You could be a Nobel Prize laureate. We were dealing with something that we hadn't dealt with before. And one of the things that I was pushing for, and I couldn't wait, was to get enough and wrap my brain around the concept of everything enough to bring in people in other areas of expertise, meaning IT specialists, mechanics, engineers, teachers, people that weren't necessarily in medicine to talk about things, to come up with other ways to address the disease that was plaguing our species as a whole, like our 8 billion people. Well, what you heard Brother Fatim just talk about, and you can bring him back up if you could, is I think it's brilliant. I heard sports, I heard educator, I heard loving husband, I heard parent, I heard real person to person, man to man talk. Hey man, we need to fake the body out. So I know it wasn't taught to you along this pathway in this book when you took this test. However, man, look, what if we do a fake? What are you talking about? What if we make the body think that it's got enough oxygen so we can get these babies through? And Coach, can we try it? Because this is my MVP. Let's just try it. We're going to try Audible and we'll see what happens. If she's willing, if the MVP is willing to do it, let's see if it works. And sure enough, not only did it work one time, you didn't try it the second time, then it worked the second time and it worked twice. This is why, just because I read all of the books, I've taken all the tests to be an expert advocator and educator and facilitator with you being the best you. It doesn't mean that I know everything. And I go back to the biggest expert on any disease. There's nothing I can tell you about being a mom or being a pregnant mom, especially that. However, even if I'm an OBGYN, unless I'm a mom, when you meet people that are surrounded by the teams, the families, the support groups that have supporting podcasts and radio broadcasts that can help them, where they can go back and pull their team in, you know that that's a winning team. And this is just a prime example of it. And that's where this whole concept, where the three of us got together and said, hey, man, let's just sit down and talk. I'm going to stay in my medical lane and add in and interject. But I want to bring out to showcase to other people the level of real. You don't think it's expertise, but it is, because you discount yourself. You hear them all the time. Listen, I'm not a doctor. It's not my area, but I have hemoglobin A, and then she has hemoglobin S, and now the kids have the trait because we gave one. I mean, that's a mentality. You know how many tests I've taken on that, and it'll stick. It sticks more coming from you than it does to other people because you're talking real people terms. So this is why we do it. This is why we do it.
And family, phone lines are open, 225-250-8770, 38 minutes past the hour. Listen, if you want to put a question in that you may have for the doc, it is Sickle Cell Awareness Month, and we're going to, every time he comes on, deep dive into the sickle cell, because we need to know more about it. People need to know how much it affects Black and brown folks, and we need to know what's going on. And you need to be just like my good brother Fatim, and get involved with your loved ones who are diagnosed with the disease. There are things you can say and can do to advocate for them to get the best care out there. Many a times the reason the care is not given at the level it should be is because you're not advocating. And I know that sounds crazy. Sometimes it almost sounds like when a husband says to a wife or a wife says to a husband, do I have to ask you for that? Sometimes you do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And can I just add this, Doc? I just want to give one point now. I don't want to lose this. One thing that I would, Joe, bring us all back, bro. Just bring us all back, because I think thank you. So the reason why I say this, I want somebody to learn this, because I got chance, and I mentioned to the doc, I got chance to work with Dr. Ian Smith. He didn't know I was going to be at this lecture, that he was coming to talk about iron overload. And one of the things that anybody that has sickle cell disease, sometimes a lot of hospitals now have pulled the patients away from the hematology team and put them into internal medicine, and then internal medicine, the doctors will consult with hematology if there's something that is prolonged with the sickle cell disease. I bring up iron overload because when you take blood transfusions, a lot of doctors don't bring up that the more transfusions you take, iron that comes from the transfusion doesn't leave your body. You have to pull the iron out of your body. If you don't, iron overload can overload your organs and cause your organs to fail. So anybody that has sickle cell disease, or someone that have taken multiple transfusions, you want their doctor, their primary care doctor, to know what their iron levels are. You don't want this to build up, and build up. That's what I want to say to you, Doc. I wanted to bring that to you.
Well, I'm glad you did that, because the next point I wanted to bring up is, Joe, you talked about advocacy, right? You know more than you think you know. We tend to overcomplicate things. I just want to take a quick little walk, right? So if your body's not able to, we can stay, the three of us can stay up and talk. Look, if you think about this, if your body's not able to get enough oxygen to tissues, what can happen? What happens to the function of that tissue, no matter what it is? What happens?
It deteriorates. It fails. It goes down.
So if cells make up tissues and the tissues make up organs, right?
Right.
So what happens to the function of that organ? It goes
down.
Down. So you mean to tell me that you'd have issues like brain fog in your brain? You'd have issues of pain, neuropathic pain in your nerves. What happens to your heart function? It goes
down.
Which does what to your risk of death?
Goes up.
So anything. So if that's the case, the body's not able to carry oxygen because of sickle cell. We're going to stay with disease because I got another question for Brother Fatim. If the body's not able to carry oxygen, as an advocate, what's one of the first things that you need to watch for people to do when you take your loved one to the OR? What's the first thing they need to put on them? You're not a doctor, but what's the first thing, Brother Fatim? What's the first thing, Joe?
Oxygen.
Oh, now your medical degree came from where?
Nowhere.
No. But you know, and now let's talk about these sickling cells. If you have sickling cells, right, and you know that they tend to stick together and clump, what happens to blood flow?
It slows down.
It
clogs up.
So if blood flow clogs up and slows down, what happens to the function of the tissue? It goes
down.
What happens to the function of
you need
tissue? It lacks oxygen.
It lacks oxygen.
Lacks oxygen.
But follow me here. If the tissues start, the function starts to go down, and things start to clump together, right? If you have a clump of dirt in a stream, how do you clear the clumps? What do you do? What do you add to the stream? What do you want to do in order to break it up? You add
fluid.
Pressure. Pressure.
So again, I'm gonna go back to the ER. When you go to the ER with your loved one, first you know they're not getting enough what?
O2, oxygen.
And now you know things are clumping just by knowing their science. The waterworks are getting clumped. What's the next thing you know that they have to start?
IV.
Right. Some pressure.
Because they need to put more fluid to get things going. But add in the fact, if the patient is in pain, you ask, hey, how long, Joe, when was the last time you had something to drink or eat? Man, I'm in pain. Right. I don't want to eat. I don't want to drink.
Right. You got to advocate. Oh, they haven't ate in the last 8 hours. They haven't drank anything in the last day. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So
you need to speak for them.
Right. We need to put oxygen and they need to get fluid. Now, it doesn't necessarily work this way, but I want you to work with me. Imagine instead of going through a tube with whole circles, right? These are red blood cells going through. Ooh. Now imagine all of a sudden they're hooked like this. Right? Like a sickle. That's why they call it sickle cell. Imagine those cells scraping the inside of the blood vessels.
Ooh.
I just want you to imagine, just give you an idea of what that would feel like on the inside of your blood vessels, right? Wouldn't feel good, would it?
Nope.
Would it be a pain?
Feel like pain. It could be from the minimum of pains, needles and pins and needles to the point of pain.
Oh, pins and needles from the, like you would think. Oh, so you're dehydrated. You don't have anything to push this thing through smoothly. You don't have enough oxygen. You haven't drank. So you know that listen, I don't know much about sickle cell, but I know Joe's in crisis. So here's what I can do, Doc. All I know is can we get some oxygen on him as soon as possible? We need to flood his system. And does it sound like a pain described like that? Does it sound like Joe's making that up?
No.
scraping the inside of his butt. So when the doctor says, listen, you're coming in crisis. I know you're taking the pills at home, which can actually dehydrate you even more.
Right.
And raise your liver level at the same time.
So you mean to tell me that if I know all this, and I'm like, look, man, we don't have no oxygen, but look, let's go outside, take some deep breaths here, try to drink some water, whatever, and take your pills. And you're telling me that these are scheduled pills. These are narcotics. This is what you're telling me at the hospital, and they're prescribed, and we've done everything we can. And here we are. We don't know what else to do. We're at the emergency room. Though Joe may not look like it, he might just be balled up like this. This is an emergency. We've tried everything we can at home with some of the strongest meds that we can take at home. It's not working. He's not drinking, and he's telling you he's in pain. Do you want to hear someone say he's drug seeking?
Nope.
But how well armed are you? And Brother Fatin, how well armed did you feel when you were like, look, if the cells aren't getting enough oxygen, then if that's the case, then you need to give them oxygen. Have you started the fluid? Doc, I don't think that needle's in. How much more empowered did you feel as an expert just knowing those 3 or 4 basic facts?
I felt much more empowered because now the doctors realized that they couldn't BS me. I hate to use that word, but they couldn't BS me because I knew what I was saying. And not only if I couldn't get through to them, I could take this higher up if I needed to advocate this here, that somebody honestly that would be listening to me, because you got to realize you have residents, you have interns, and a lot of times I might be dealing with an intern doctor.
Wait. You said something. Joe. He said something. He said something. So wait. You mean what's the difference between an intern, a resident, a fellow, and an attending? I mean, what are you talking about? A doctor's a doctor, right?
Experience.
Oh, so what's your what? And it's you're not vilifying the medical process, but can you put in plain terms? So when someone goes to the ER, they can know what they're dealing with. We know what med students are, but when you graduate from med school, what are you talking about? Tell me what you mean.
Oh, basically, when you graduate from med school, you have to put in a certain amount of hours to become, that doctor, that medical doctor. You become an intern, you have the attending, you have the resident doctor. So it goes
intern
up in
is
layers.
Your first year residency. That's a full year where you're really learning the ropes and you're like a deer in headlights because you're scared something's going to happen because you don't have much experience. You pass all the book work, the clinical work, and now it's real. You're supervised by a resident, and your residency can go from 3 to 4 years, sometimes depending on the specialty, up to 7, 8 years. After residency, you can super specialize, like with your hematology oncologist, and you can do fellowships. The fellowships are specialties. It's like you go into a mechanic and being like I'm not a mechanic, being a tune-up specialist.
I'm a transmission specialist.
A transmission specialist. Now you're a mechanic, but he is a specialist. And then you have the owner of the shop who is a specialist among specialists, has done all of it. But he also used to have hair and has got a couple grays and been doing it for a while. And that's usually your attending.
You look like JD.
But yeah, you look like JD. But the thing is, I wanted you to explain it to understand that you're walking into a situation where you have a team, right? And the patient is the MVP. You have all different levels of coaches and supervisors, and you have you as that special MVP, special advocate. You got Michael Jordan and Scottie Pippen. I hope you're Bulls fans. If you're not, pick a team. But you're the one that from this side is an advocate for the patient. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Right.
Now you brought up some excellent points that I can't let go. I want you to go back. You said your kids don't have sickle cell disease, and I want you to explain the difference. And then I want you to explain what you still worry about if they only have the trait.
Right. So what happens is my wife, as you mentioned, hemoglobin S, or we call it SS because of the sickle cell she has. So she gives a SG. And there's a way of doing this with a square box. A square box, break it down into 4 barriers.
It's called a Punnett square. You know how many times you had to take that test to get that right
Come
to
on.
understand it,
Come on,
man?
come on.
Wish you were around when I was in high school, junior
Come
high,
on
college,
now.
the whole nine, med school.
Punic-
Keep going.
They call it Punic, whatever they call it. That's
Yeah.
square.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's square. So what happens is I basically gave one gene to the child, and my wife gave another gene. So I gave an A gene, which is considered a normal gene. You know, no
Yeah,
trait.
A normal. It can carry oxygen and do this. It stays round. It can.
Exactly. So what happens is my kids will, since they give her S genes, they do have a small percentage of sickle cells in their body. They do.
Potentially.
But-
Their cells can sickle. They have the ability to sickle in stressful situations.
Exactly.
Oh.
Exactly.
Oh.
Because they can go into crisis, and some doctors don't even realize that under certain circumstances, those with a trait can have a crisis, but some doctors look at it and say, no, because you have the trait, you can't. So that is true.
No,
what the
no, no.
doctor
Like,
said.
imagine being stressful. You imagine not knowing you have sickle cell trait, because a lot of times people aren't tested. You're supposed to be not tested when they're babies, or they don't know. You're stressing. You're got a travel schedule. You're working. You're not eating. You got a long flight. Let's say from here to London, or here from here to California or Hawaii. You're not drinking. You're not eating, and all of a sudden, you go into your first pain crisis without even knowing that you have the trait. Keep going.
Right. So now my children have been diagnosed with sickle cell trait. So what they have to do, and this was the first mistake that doctors said, they said, well, your children have to realize who they get married to, because if they get married to somebody with the trait or the disease, that they have the possibility of giving birth to a child with sickle cell disease. I said to the doctor, well, doc, people always don't get married first. People procreate. So I think the conversation should be whoever they have children from, they need to know their status if they have the trait or the disease, because now it increases the chance, because they have the trait of giving birth or giving birth to a child that has sickle cell disease.
Exactly. Spot on. Now, people with sickle cell trait can live long. I hate using the word normal, but they can live long, healthy lives and never have a crisis at all, if they're cognizant of the fact that things can happen in certain stressors. They need to make sure they get adequate rest. They need to get checked, get fit, get moving. They need to educate themselves, stay close to their family, stay close to their doctor, eat healthy foods, hydrate. Rest is essential, as is exercise. But it's not a handicap. But they have to have advocates with them in case something happens when they go to the doctor, because they can go into crisis. Correct?
Right.
And with that said, I mean, this has been the perfect example, Joe, of what I mean by advocacy and why we're doing this show. People with sickle cell, if the cells are clumping, if the cells block, if you cut off oxygen and decrease blood flow in the blood vessels in the brain, what's it called, Joe?
It's called a stroke.
Oh, wow. So you mean people with sickle cell?
Or a TIA if it just comes and goes,
which can be a precursor to a larger event. It's peripheral vascular disease. So you can have, even people with sickle cell trait need to be aware that their cells can sickle, and they can run a slightly increased risk for stroke, but they want to stay on top of it. So again, if you break things down and talk them out and just think about it, it sounds like Brother Fatin did a lot of that. Well, Doc, tell me how that works again. Now, if this works this way, maybe we could try this, and this, and maybe we can fake the body out and get beautiful babies. And it works, and it works in all systems, but you have to talk to your doctor. You have to have these full, educated conversations without fear of judgment. Any supplement that you might take, this is regardless of whether or not I'm talking about things, sickle cell and others. Anything you put into your body, anytime you're trying to make a change, we talk about losing weight, we talk about exercising, fully disclose that to your team, and in the right way, let them know that, listen, we are a team. I say it that way because, again, and I know we got 5 minutes left, well, less than that. Brother Fatin, how many doctors did y'all fire along the way?
quite a few. I had one doctor said that I read too much.
Wow.
You know, so we had to not only pull certain doctors, we had to pull certain nurses off, because if you know that person, the patient is a bad stick, when I say a bad stick, they're hard to find their veins. My wife had to get a PICC line, so they had to use the ultrasound machine to go in and thread her artery, if I'm not mistaken, that PICC line, because her veins were very, very small, and she didn't have a lot of good veins for them to thread. IV. Also, she couldn't be thread with like a regular gauge. She had to be thread with a smaller gauge, a smaller needle, because it would blow the vein, because you're pumping too much fluid through at one time, and it would blow the vein.
Yeah, exactly. Those conversations. Understand. So again, just thinking about it, if I'm a sickle cell patient and I have to go into the hospital for a lot of people, from the time they're young and babies to the time you become an adult, how many times have the veins been punctured?
Yes.
How many times can you put a nail in a tire and patch it up before you have to be like, hey, we can't use this tire anymore?
Exactly.
That's exactly what happens with the veins in your body. Like, you stick them so many times and there's just no place else left for it to be functioning. So you have to do more invasive things to put more permanent solutions in, so you can get fluid in the things that are needed on the inside to help fix the situation. But again, I like the way you use the term pull. I say fire. You do have the ability to fire your team and your doctors if they're not meeting your needs, and you need to make it known as to why, not just to that doctor, but to everyone else. I'm not trying to create a contentious situation, but a lot of times, if you're not getting what you needed, you're the MVP. You only get one shot. This is your championship game. From now until your game is over. So you got to fight for it sometimes.
Right. That is right. And not only what the doc said is that you start to branch off to everything. When I went to Lamaze class, the midwife told me, she said, when you come into labor and delivery, when you're talking with the doctors, learn what the terminology is. So they tend to respect you better. Know what infacing of the cervix is, dilating. Understand these terms, so they tend to look at you and say, you know what you're talking about. So when my wife went into labor with our first daughter, Fatia, her mucus plug came out and it was yellowish green. That was a problem. That's a problem. And I told the doctors, and they ignored it at first. And then when she was continuing to have contractions, and she only got to maybe 6 centimeters dilation, I was like, I went downstairs, doc, she's not dilating. Her mucus plug yellow green. Her mucus plug yellow green. Another doctor, I had to go over the doctor head. Yellow green, let me come up and examine her. Yeah. So I went, came in, they gave her a internal exam, bring her downstairs. Once they did that, remember, if you know anything, if you had a baby, they put the belt around you to monitor the contraction, the heartbeat. They said, no, we're going to put an internal monitor on the baby. That's what they did. So they put it in the vaginal area, and there's an internal monitor on the baby's head. That started to decrease. I ran out and got the nurse. They came in, prep her for OR immediately. This baby had a bowel movement in the sac, and it's drinking. Because remember, they drink the amniotic fluid.
It's called meconium. Meconium.
That's what it's called, meconium. That's it. And they got Fatia out of there, and she survived. But that's why her heart rate, because she was going to die inside.
So folks, I just want you to hear, there was nothing crazy medical about that. Doc, it was yellow green. The plug was yellow green. The plug was yellow green. It doesn't matter. You can call it hues of turquoise and a irradiant frequency of yellow. Blah, blah. No, the plug was yellow green. That's an advocate. That's something that someone that takes time, asks question and read. And that's what we're trying to encourage people to do. Joe.
Family. It is 1 minute to the top of the hour, and every Tuesday I want to tell a friend to tell a friend, listen, share this with a friend. He's in the building. Doc Griggs, get checked, get fit, get moving. It's What's Up, Doc. It's every Tuesday from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. Central Time, 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern Time. And Doc, we really appreciate you taking time out, especially on this month, Sickle Cell Awareness Month, to come in, give us information. Listen, family, if you want to inbox me with questions for Doc, if you want to call in, you're welcome to call in. Doc is here to try to give you some pointers on how to navigate and speak to your doctor about being the best you can be, because a healthy you is a better you. With that being said, Doc, I'm gonna start with you. Give me some closing words, man. We're getting ready to get up out of here.
I just want to say, get checked, get fit, get moving. You are the expert on you, and you are the advocate for your loved ones. Stay tuned next week. I might try to make a phone call and see if I can get someone to join us next week to make this even more fun.
That's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about. Brother Fatim, hit me.
Let me just say this. I started off the show talking about a family incident that affected my oldest daughter today. And I love the love and support that folks have given me. And I feel better. I feel better from this conversation this morning. And just to add in something personal, as I was transparent the last time the doctor was on, I mentioned I went to the doctor. I read some of my blood results online. Last Friday, not this past Friday, but the Friday before last, I started going to Planet Fitness. Even though I was a member for almost 3 years, I started. Last week was the first full week, and I was going yesterday, but due to the incident and I had to deal with, I didn't go, but I was at Planet Fitness today. So it's about learning and taking charge of your life and doing it in baby steps. It's baby steps. Don't try to do the whole world in one day. Just take one step today, another step tomorrow. And as you see, when you continue to put the steps together, you will be successful in what you need to do. And those are my closing words. Thank you, Doc.
Thank you.
That's what I'm talking about. Family, listen, it is Tell the Truth Tuesday. Tomorrow is Work It Out Wednesday. We thank Doc Griggs for coming on. Listen, I'm gonna make this simple, very simple, very, very simple. You know what I always do. You know how I always close. Knowledge makes a man unfit to be a slave. Knowledge makes a man unfit to be a slave. Be better today than you were yesterday. Do something today to be a blessing to somebody, somewhere, somehow, some way that there's no earthly way they could ever pay you back for what you've done for them. And always remember that there is no secret what God can do. What he has done for others, he will and he can do for you. For when God is with you, nothing or no one can stand against you. Be blessed. Have a great day. We up out of here. Lord's willing, we'll see you tomorrow. Peace.
Good morning, loved one. Sure looking good today. I hope you have a good day. Did I say I love you? You're looking mighty fine. Matter of fact, you look that way all the time. But I'm just saying this in my mind, taking it for granted that the world is going round, 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 and round. It's just spinning around, round, round, and round. That's why don't need a Valentine's Day to tell you how much I love you. I don't really need. Don't need an anniversary to tell you how much I care. I don't really need a holiday. Don't need a holiday to tell you how I feel. All I need, all I need, all I need, all I need is today.